We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
We've gone from here. The evil is gone.
What can I say? I'm a blast from the past.
Should have stayed there.
Come with me if you want to live.
Welcome to Big Lip Radio presents No Girls Allowed, the movie review podcast. From new movies to retro reviews, we promise that we will never talk about chick flicks. Here's your host, Jerad.
Yes, we are not going to talk about chick flicks. Today we're going to talk about Halloween 2. And before we get into that, I do realize that today is August 15th, 2017, which is 2 or 3 days later than usual. And you might be wondering, well, where were you? Where were you? I'm waiting here at my iPhone, waiting to download the latest from iTunes or perhaps Google or Spreaker. We're on everything. And Stitcher, we're on everything. And check the Facebook page at Big Lip Radio, on Twitter. I mean, we're everywhere. Where is the new podcast? Well, it's a couple of days late because I also am a blast from the past. And my great niece, Zach's daughter, Paige, had her 4th birthday party at this wonderful place called Pump Up the Party. This place is so amazing. It's got like 4 different rooms with different bounce houses and inflatable slides, all kinds of cool stuff. And I knew I was in trouble when I first started jumping, and immediately my calves are cramping up. Now, for those who don't know, I'm a 48-year-old man, and I just crested 205 pounds. So the middle-age spread is coming. I've spent most of my life between 128 and 132 pounds. That's no BS till I was about 36. A 28-inch waist till I was 36. Well, I'm 205 pounds now with a 34-inch waist. And so from 28 inches to 34 inches, that's quite a bit of weight. And so anyway, I'm jumping. My legs are cramping. And I'm like, I'll fight through this. This is no big deal. Now look over here. Here's a nice platform. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to do a double flip, maybe throw a twist into it. This is going to be awesome. It turned out to be about 3/4 of a flip, and the only twist was my ankle. Excuse me. So anyway, I haven't been able to climb the stairs to get up to my illustrious game room / studio, which will be extremely busy because this weekend is SummerSlam, and we're going to be raising hell up there. Can't wait. But anyway, I twisted my ankle really, really badly. So I can't put on my boot. I can't go to work. And so the podcast is 2 or 3 days late because I usually put it out on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how my weekend's going, what my schedule looks like. But I'm putting it out here on Tuesday, August 15th, a mere 11 days before my 49th birthday. Holy crap. So, speaking of getting old, before we talk about Halloween 2, and we're going to get to Halloween 2, and Ric Flair. We talk about a lot of things on here. We talk about video games. We talk about fast food. Of course, we specialize in movie reviews, retro reviews, and new movies. We specialize in that. But this is No Girls Allowed. We'll talk about anything guys are interested in. And girls, I know some of you are interested in this too, so you're welcome to listen. But, so anyway, Ric Flair, 16-time world champion Ric Flair. If you're familiar at all with the old NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, the old WCW, World Championship Wrestling, or the current product, WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, you no doubt know who Ric Flair is. He's one of the best, and if there's ever going to be a Mount Rushmore of wrestling, Ric Flair will be one of the 4 guys on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Well, we heard he was in intensive care Saturday, and the man is 68 years old. Hulk Hogan, 64. So anyway, Ric Flair is in the ICU, his representatives are saying it's no big deal. He's just going through routine monitoring. Well, I know a few things. One of the things I know is they don't do routine monitoring in the ICU. They just don't do that. I've never heard of it. So then we find out later on, I think it was Monday, that Ric Flair was in a medically induced coma and underwent a heart procedure. He's in critical condition. He's got a long fight back. Needs all your prayers and well wishes. And Ric Flair, you have my prayers. And so anyway, that's a bummer. Another sign of my age is one of my childhood heroes getting up there. And so anyway, we'll see what happens. I'll keep you up to date, and certainly Twitter and Facebook, wherever you hear it first. It probably won't be here, but still, I'll be doing updates on here. And these are almost like time capsules. I love going back and listening to old shows the Big Lip Radio has done, because it's almost like a time capsule. So anyway, we'll be updating Ric Flair's condition, and hopefully everything's okay. All right, well, one thing that's better than okay, spoiler alert, Halloween 2. It's a great movie. Let's go through some of the numbers. Let's do a rundown on the numbers for Halloween 2. Halloween 2 was released October 30th, 1981. And it was directed by Rick Rosenthal and John Carpenter, although Carpenter was uncredited. Let's see, where are we at here? Oh, okay. 92 minutes of running length. The budget was $2.5 million. The box office was $25.5 million. Now imagine you're getting $10 back for every dollar you invest. Wow, that's pretty good. Now, if you adjust for inflation, that's $66.82 million. However, also think about this. Ticket prices back then were, 75 cents, $3 at the outside, depending on where you're seeing it. And they didn't used to have these big multiplexes. It used to be one theater, one screen, and somehow I think it was almost better back then. Like a lot of things, not as good, but better. It's hard to explain, and you pups will know what it's like when you're my age, when you see something that's better, but just not as good as it was. So anyway, $3 was the high point for a ticket price in '81. Now, when Return of the Jedi came out, ticket prices hit $5. Oh, ghastly, unheard of. $5 to see a movie. So, if anyone wants to tell you that Return of the Jedi wasn't the reason movie prices were able to crest the $5 line, the barrier, the boundary, they're wrong. I was there. It was the first $5 movie, and we all lost our minds. So anyway, it didn't stop me from seeing it in the theaters twice, and we were broke. Seeing 2 movies in a year would be a rarity. Seeing the same movie twice, unheard of. So anyway, when you adjust for inflation, you're not adjusting, you're just adjusting for how much that money's worth in today's dollars. You're not saying, oh, well, a movie ticket today could be $20. What if you charge $20? No, they're not doing that. If they charged $20 back then, this movie probably raked in $1 billion. But it's amazing. And you'll have to excuse me, I got a cough sitting around waiting for my leg to heal, which still hasn't happened yet, by the way. I got a little bit of a cough. So, at any rate, let's talk about the cast of Halloween 2. Jamie Lee Curtis reprises her role as Laurie Strode. Donald Pleasance brings back his Dr. Sam Loomis. Charles Cyphers also brings back Sheriff Lee Brackett. Lance Guest plays Jimmy Lloyd. Jimmy Lloyd is a paramedic, and apparently he's just a couple years older than Laurie. He seems to know her. She seems to know him, and there's affection, although no romance between the two. And but anyway, he was also in a movie called The Last Starfighter. And what's cool about The Last Starfighter was it was the first movie that had fully CGI rendered scenes. All the space scenes in there were CGI. And in I suppose it was around 83. I'd have to look it up. 83 or 4 that movie came out. That was a feat. So anyway, he's like the main male lead. Nurse Jill Franco, played by Tawny Moyer. Nurse Karen Bailey is played by Pamela Shoop. Nurse Janet Marshall is played by Anna Alicia. And I remember the first time I saw this movie, I thought, wow, she looks old. I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, that chick is smoking hot. And she is. Marion Chambers, that character returns. Nancy Stevens plays her again now. She's the one in the first Halloween, if you remember. She was the one who was driving the car, the smoking nurse. And she was the one driving the car to the insane asylum to pick up Michael Myers so Sam Loomis can inform us about how crazy and dangerous and insane Michael Myers is. So anyway, her character returns. And her character will also come back in, I think, part 7? 7 or 8. Anyway, it will make a return, and I saw her in a special, special, goddamn, what's it called? Special features. There we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, she's in the special features on Halloween 2, and she's still a pretty girl, and she's older than I am, holding it together nicely. And the movie I watched, by the way, I have the special edition box set, the big one with all the extras on it of Halloween, and this is Halloween 2 from there, and it has the Blu-ray as well as the DVD with it. And it's probably exactly the same one that you can find in the $7 bin, which includes both of them. But I highly recommend you pick it up. Okay, now where are we at? Dick Warlock plays Michael Myers. See, anything else? Leo Rossi plays Bud. Dr. Mixter's played by Ford Rainey. And that's about it. There's a lot more. I just don't want to go into the guys you've never heard of and haven't heard of. So anyway, Halloween 2. Halloween 2 picks up the moment, actually about 30 seconds before the original Halloween ends. You see a replay of Dr. Loomis coming in, shooting Michael Myers, except for this time he somehow, from a 6-shooter, fires 7 shots. Now, I am not at all a gunsmith, but I do know that a 6-shooter will not fire 7 rounds. But he manages to get off 7 rounds out of his 6-shooter. Michael Myers falls from the balcony onto an obvious crash mat on the ground. And Donald Pleasance goes outside. There's a indentation in the ground where Michael Myers' body was, but Michael Myers is gone. And the new movie picks up. A neighbor comes out and says, "Is this a joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight." And Dr. Samuel Loomis, who's Donald Pleasance has really luminized his performance. "You don't know what death is." And then he turns around, leans back, and runs forward, just like a cartoon, and off he goes. It's almost Shatner-esque. And Loomis, Donald Pleasance, has been compared to William Shatner several times. If you listen to any podcasts about these movies, he really gets into a really melodramatic. So anyway, the beginning, this is where the beginning kicks off. And the pumpkin turns into a ghost, and they change the arrangement of the theme a little bit. Check this out. Now, you might not notice a difference between Halloween and Halloween 2 if you haven't seen the movies 1,000 times, and I have. But it's a little more synthy. They put in the synthesizers and all this other stuff. They wanted to put a coat of gloss on everything because they wanted to be able to keep up. Because the original Halloween came out in 1978. A little movie called Friday the 13th came out in 1980. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to copy Halloween, rip it off, and go the next level. And like I said in my review, I didn't realize until I was in my 30s that Halloween is practically bloodless. There's no, you don't see any impalation, you don't see any throat slashing, you don't see anything. It's almost bloodless, and I didn't realize that because theater of the mind is so much more effective, there's the word I'm looking for, than actually showing it on the screen. However, Friday the 13th was showing it on the screen. You're seeing the the machetes and axes go into people. So they wanted to compete. Halloween 2 did. So they amped it up. It's much more gruesome, grotesque, and a little less stylized. And they show you things so you don't have to imagine it. So anyway, Michael Myers is out and running around the neighborhood, and you know what? We didn't listen to the trailer. Let's check out the trailer real quick.
Shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart. This man, he's not human.
Universal Pictures presents Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.
Who is it?
There was nothing within him, neither conscience nor reason, that wasn't even remotely human. This is some kind of a joke. I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. You don't know what death is.
Janet, go tell Mr. Garrett we're having trouble with the phones.
There is no place to hide. He will always find you.
What's this? It's a Celtic word. It means the Lord of the Dead.
So how could I forget to lead off with the trailer? We always lead off with the trailer. Well, this is kind of a different show. So anyway, let's see where we at. Okay, so Michael Myers, he escapes from Sam Loomis, and he's walking around, comes up on this old couple in their house, sneaks into their house, steals the butcher knife from the cutting board, and leaves a blood stain on the cutting board. The old lady sees the blood stain, screams. Young little Alice, probably the cutest girl in the entire movie, hears the scream, runs out to the backyard. Those footsteps are Michael Myers walking around to the back of Alice's house.
Mrs. Elrod? Mr. Elrod? Are you okay?
She's on the phone.
Hi. There was someone screaming next door. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Elrod. His wife's always picking on him. He probably got angry and decided to start beating her.
The good old days.
Are your folks home?
They are gone. My dad had to take my Aunt Ruby to Hardin County, and my mother decided to go along.
Didn't you hear?
Hear about what?
Some girl got killed in Haddonfield. It's on the radio.
Hold on.
And the police have cordoned off the entire area. To repeat, 3 teenagers have been found murdered in a house in the northwest section of Haddonfield. The names of the teenagers have not been released.
I can't believe it.
I know. You know, we probably knew her.
Where did it happen?
Down on Orange Grove.
That's right down the street.
I know.
Police confirmed the girl was rescued as she
Sally, I can hear the sirens coming.
They said
Now
the
she's
guy
starting to
got away.
panic.
Do they know who it was?
No.
Oh, God.
It was Michael Myers. Oh my gosh, she heard a noise in the house.
What's wrong?
We saw Michael Myers enter off
Who is it?
in the background.
Alice? Where are you?
Who is it?
Gary Hunt of the Haddonfield Police Department says he believes the suspect will be apprehended within a matter of hours. Neighbors say they heard screams during the early evening, but attributed the noise to the usual Halloween.
There he is. Oh, he slits her throat. And now we know blood flies all on her face. We know we're in for a different experience this time around. The lighting is still the same. I think they use the same cinematographer and a lot of the same crew. And So anyway, your first victim, Alice. All right, now Lori. They find Lori. She's in the. They pull her out of the house, and Bud and Jimmy take her to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. And while this is happening, the police and Dr. Loomis are looking for Michael Myers.
Brackett, come in, please. Chief Brackett, come in, please.
Who is it?
Chief, this is Ramsey.
Say again, what is it?
This is Ramsey.
Where are you?
I'm out by the bakery moving north on the Scottsville Road.
Get the hell back into town. Go up 17th Street and meet me by the bypass.
10-4, Ramsey, please.
Will you put that thing away? Couldn't have shot him 6 times.
You think I'm lying, Sheriff?
I think you missed him. No man could take 6 slugs.
I've told you this isn't a man. Look out, slow down.
What?
Over there, look.
Is that him?
I don't know. Get back! Run! Go on, run! Loomis! Get back! Get back, you kids! Run! Loomis! Stop! Get out of there! Loomis! Stop! Stop!
There's a guy in a Michael Myers costume. Apparently it was a popular costume. Staggers into the street, gets hit by a cop car, thrown into a van, and it's the 80s, folks, so there's an explosion involved.
Sheriff Brackett. He came out of nowhere. I couldn't stop. Is it him? Is it him or not?
Lee, they found 3 bodies.
Where?
Across the street from the Doyle house. 3 kids. Lee, one of them was Annie.
Annie is Lee Brackett's daughter. But here's what doesn't make sense. Now, we heard earlier the news program talking about these bodies being found in the house. How did the sheriff not know about this? They went to the news media before the deputies, I'm going to assume, who found the bodies, went to the news media instead of the sheriff. So there are some things that don't make sense, but what the hell? The movie's good enough to carry on. So now there's also a scene now. Lori's in the hospital. There's a scene where a mother brings her kid to the emergency room in this hospital. He's got a razor blade jammed in his mouth because it used to be it's an urban legend. I guess it's never actually once happened where they said people would be putting razor blades in apples. Don't take anything that's homemade. Don't take any apples from these people, because if you do, you're going to bite into a razor blade. So there's this kid, and it's really, really gory. He's got a razor blade jammed in his mouth. It's hilarious. Now, think of the mind of the person who would do this. Where'd you get the apples? Oh, down there at old lady Myers' house. You're screwed. So anyway, it's never actually happened. Getting your candy x-rayed, all that other stuff. Nothing's ever been found. Nothing's ever happened. It's an urban legend, but funny nonetheless. So anyway, we meet. What is that nurse's name? Wow, now I'm going to forget the nurse's name. Karen. We meet Karen. Karen is coming home from a Halloween party. She's got a friend with her, and she's got to get to the hospital, man. She's in the baby ward. She's got to take care of the babies down at the hospital. And her friend says, no, you got to take me home. And so anyway, she knows she's going to be late, so she decides to take her friend home. Michael Myers is walking around Main Street and runs into a kid who happens to be the director's son, by the way. He's wearing a cowboy hat, and he's got this big old boombox that we used to have back in the 80s up on his shoulder, listening to talk radio. Now, country guys We called them S-kickers back in the day. Probably still do. Who knows? They didn't listen to big boomboxes up on their shoulders. That was all the urban kids listening to the Fat Boys and Crush and Run DMC. They had the big boomboxes up on their shoulders. Not cowboys. And anybody having a boombox up on their shoulders certainly wasn't listening to talk radio. But anyway, Michael Myers runs into this kid wearing a cowboy hat listening to talk radio on his boombox propped on his shoulders. And he hears on the news that Laurie Strode is being taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. All right, so he decides he's going to make his way to the hospital. Somehow, and I don't know how, he ends up in the back seat of Karen's car. Now, I don't know how he got in the back seat of Karen's car, because she took off to drive her friend home and then was going from there to the hospital. So I don't know how he ended up in the backseat of her car. Suffice it to say, he did. So now he's sneaking around. You see Mr. Garrett, the security guard. You see all the security monitors. And you also see horror movies playing in the back. And that's one of the reasons these first two movies work so great is you believe it's actually Halloween night. So all these horror movies are playing in the back. And in the background. And the rest of these are monitors. The rest of the TVs are monitors monitoring the ground. He's the security guy. And you see Michael Myers walking through the frame. As he's busy talking to people, it is really effective. I loved it. So, anyway, he cuts the phone lines. So Mr. Garrett goes, well, I gotta figure out what's going on. So he runs outside to check the phone lines. And a couple of false jump scares, like a cat jumps out of a dumpster. Now, I'm going to tell you what. I've got 5 cats in this house. Been around cats most of my life. I have never, ever had one come flying at me screaming. Meow. Never once. Never once, but it happens in all these horror movies. Happens in Friday the 13th, Part 2, and again in, I think, Part 7? Anyway, we'll get to those eventually. So anyway, what happens is Mr. Garrett, he's down there looking for the cut phone lines, and Michael Myers hits him with a hammer, the claw end of a hammer. Done. Number 2, Mr. Garrett. Meanwhile, Bud and Karen. Bud is a stoner. He is a stoner paramedic. And Karen, of course, is the late nurse. This chick has got a bod. So, anyway, the hospital's shutting down for the night. And it's nice and quiet in there. All the babies are asleep. Bud convinces Karen to go down to the physical therapy room. They got a hot tub in there. So what they're going to do is they're going to have a little rendezvous in this hot tub. So we get our nude scene, which most of these movies provide. And meanwhile, Michael Myers is in the therapy room, and he cranks up the heat on the jacuzzi. So Karen says, "Hey, why don't you go check the thermostat and see why this thing's so hot?" And he says, "Hey, it's cold out there." And she goes, "It can get cold in here too." So he hops out, and she gets out because it's hot, and he's checking out the thermostat, and she's got her back to him, and he's in the room behind some stained glass, and you can see the outline of Michael Myers strangling him to death. Okay, number 3, Bud, down. So Michael Myers comes up behind Karen. Karen decides they don't got time for a rendezvous. She's got to get back to watch the kids. She doesn't want to get caught. She's like, "Hey, let's go to breakfast." He's behind her, puts his hand on her shoulder. "Oh, Bud, don't be mad, blah, blah, blah." And sticks his finger in her mouth. Oh, my God. He's been killing people for like 24 hours. So anyway, she sticks his finger in her mouth, and then she turns around and realizes, oh, my God, it's him. And he drowns her in the scalding hot water. You see the skin peeling off her face. It's a nice effect. It's pretty good. Now, we're going to cut to the police investigating. They go to a school, and they see, oh, my God, Sam Hain. It's a Celtic magical inscription, and they realize, oh, Michael Myers is here to kill in the name of a cultic religion. And that's when Marion shows up, the nurse from the first movie, and explains to Loomis, hey, the governor Rod Blagojevich, while he's not busy rigging elections and laundering money, the governor wants you off this case. He doesn't want any attention brought to this case, and Smith Groves doesn't want their name brought into anything. So she said, I'm here with this state police, and we're taking you back to Smith Groves. You're off the case. So on the way back to Smith Groves, she lets go with a little bit of information that there was a secret file on Michael Myers that no one, not even his doctor, Dr. Samuel Loomis, is allowed to see. And that case, the file describes that, let's see, let me find it here. Let's see if I can get my notes going. Nope. Wow, I thought I wrote it down. Anyway, Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' sister. Now, 2 years after Michael Myers killed his sister, Laurie Strode was born to the Myers family. And 2 years after Laurie Strode was born to the Myers family, they don't explain how, but Mom and Dad Myers died. And Laurie Strode was adopted by the Strodes, who just happened to live a block and a half from the Myers house. And so anyway, there's some things here that might not make sense either. So anyway, Loomis pulls his gun on the state trooper, says, let's go back. Take me to Haddonfield Memorial. He's going to go kill his sister. Now we know who he's here to kill and why. So off they go. And let's see, where are we at here? Okay, now Karen's dead. So Janet goes in to find Dr. Mixter. And she finds him. It was an off-screen kill. He's number 5, dead. He's got a needle jammed in his eye. She backs up, Janet does, when she sees him. And right in the room is dark, and suddenly you see Michael Myers' mask. And he shoves a needle in her head, kills her, and gives a nice little head tilt. Now Michael Myers goes into Laurie's room, stabs it with a scalpel, stabs the bed with a scalpel. Oh my God, Laurie's not there. So let's see. Jimmy. He's busy looking for Nurse Ailes. And he goes into a room, blood all over the floor. He slips on it. Now everybody makes a big deal about how can Michael Myers, how can he drive? That doesn't make any sense. How can Michael Myers drive? So number 7, Nurse Ailes, by the way. How can he learn to use a needle to drain every drop of blood out of a nurse? Nobody makes a deal about that, but well, what do you want? So Jamie slips in the blood, knocks himself out, and really, it looks good. You can see the head bounce off the floor and everything. It looks really, really good. Now Laurie is crawling around the hallways because somehow she knew Michael Myers was out to get her. Crawls around the hallways, sees Nurse Jill. Your number 8th kill. He comes behind Jill, and Laurie sees this, stabs her with the scalpel, lifts her off the ground. As she dies, her clogs fall off her feet because he's holding her up in the air with the scalpel. Physically, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does look great in the movie. So she runs down to the basement, and Michael Myers is stalking her. He doesn't run. He ain't got time to run. He stalks. And so she's in the basement, and she's in an elevator, and she's pushing the door shut. Oh, my God, please shut. Michael Myers comes walking up. The hand with the knife just gets in the door as the door closes, and now instead of opening up like they always do, he pulls his hand back. The door closes, opens behind her, and she runs out into the parking lot. She gets into Jimmy's car. Now, Jill, earlier, knowing the phones are down, she tries to get in the car. She's going to run into town and get the cops and say, hey, something's weird going on here. But her car don't start. She notices that her tires are flat. In fact, all the tires of all the cars are flat. And I guess somehow that keeps them from starting. Anyway, her car won't start. Her tires are flat. And she went back in to be killed by Michael Myers. So anyway, Jill comes out. She gets into Jimmy's car. And she's hiding in there. Jimmy staggers out to his own car. He's been knocked loopy, keep in mind.
Jimmy,
Didn't even notice she was there.
It's all right. We're gonna get out of here. I think,
He passes out onto the horn. Oh my God! Michael Myers is going to hear that horn from the parking lot. So she pulls him off the horn. And she's trying to start the car. Now, we all know the car's not going to start because all the tires are flat. So she gets out of the car, and she's crawling. She falls right on the ground, and that's actually her, not a stunt woman. Ouch. Loomis and the state trooper pull up, along with Marion Chambers.
I ought to handcuff you to the wheel, but I have a feeling I'm going to need you in there. Can I trust you?
What have I got to lose? Except my job.
So she screams, but they're already inside, so they don't hear about it. So she gets out of the car. She crawls over to the door, the entrance, and Michael Myers shows up in the parking lot, and he's walking towards the entrance. So what she does is she starts pounding on the window, pounding on the door. And of course, nobody can hear her until it's almost too late. Michael Myers walks right through the door. This time, Loomis shoots him 5 times. Down he goes. But this is Michael Myers. That ain't gonna stop him.
Stop! He's dead. No, he's not. Look at him. He's still breathing.
Still breathing.
Okay. There's a 2-way radio in the marshal's car. I want you to go outside. Get on that radio and get Hunt.
Now, wait a minute. I'm the only one authorized to use that.
Move!
Marion Chambers is going to be on the phone. Marion Chambers, that sounds like a porn star from the 80s, doesn't it? So,
Why won't he die?
Why won't he die?
Get away from him!
But he stopped breathing.
No!
Oh! Wonderful effect with the scalpel. Slit the state trooper's throat. Oh, and then the chase is on. So what happens is Dr. Loomis grabs Laurie. They run into this exam room. Michael Myers shows up. And long story short, Laurie Strode ends up shooting Michael Myers in each of his eyes. It's not very realistic, especially given parts 4 and beyond. But it's not very realistic that she'd be able to shoot him in each eye. But it mattered, and it's worth it, and we can forgive it because we get that wonderful, iconic image of Michael Myers with blood tears. Oh, it's great. So anyway, they turn on all the oxygen, all the gases, all this other stuff. He tells Laurie to escape. He lights a lighter. Boom! Blows up the room. Ideally, Dr. Sam Loomis and Michael Myers are dead. And the movie closes with Laurie Strode in the ambulance. There you have it. That's Halloween 2. Now, the first Halloween, I believe I gave that a 4.5. This one, we give it between 3.5 and 4. We're going to call it 4. Because there's some movies I know I'm going to give a 3.5, where this movie's much better than those coming up in the series. So we're going to call this a 4. It tried really hard to be like the first one while incorporating the next step, the next evolution in horror with all the graphicness and the clever kills. I mean, the kills are no longer just a knife to the throat. I mean, you get you get needles to the eyeball, you get scalded to death in a jacuzzi. Why would they have a setting that allows you to scald people to death in a therapy room of a hospital? I'm not I'm not sure what that's about. I was watching the special features on the Blu-ray, and by the way, this one I watched. I can't remember if I told you guys. I've got the box set, the complete special edition box set. That's $110 anywhere you look, and they make a non-special edition box set that doesn't have a couple of the discs in it for special features, but and you can find that for $40 to $60. I don't think the extra money was worth it, but I like the packaging, so I spent the extra money. I do that. I'm not very smart. These people are rich because of dummies like me. Don't regret it a bit, though, so what do you want? But anyway, I was watching the special features. The generator broke that day on the set, and that water was ice cold. So they had to pretend. Now, they pumped steam into the room, so it looked like it was hot, but the water was ice cold, and they had to act as if the water was hot. And funny little bit of trivia. Good stuff. The Blu-ray I had also came with a DVD. 2 different commentary tracks, one with the director and another one with a stunt coordinator. So I watched the one with the director as well. Anyway, go get it. It's a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I believe you'll enjoy the heck out of it as well. Yeah, join us next week. There it is. Join us next week. Next week we will be reviewing Halloween 3, and I think just maybe Zach will be here for SummerSlam, which means we're going to get a regular Big Lip Radio podcast out too. So join us next week.
They do at the drive-thru.